This is a Frank podcast.
This Warriors Live Podcast 2026, episode 22. I'm Will Evans, here with Keith Whitelock, filling in for an unwell Brad Larking. Sending healing vibes out to you, Brad. And Fonzie, brought to you by Kingz Container Crew, greatest container crew outfit on the planet. Head to kingzcontainercrew.com for all your container packing and unpacking solutions. Hit the Work With Us tab to get a gig with those guys as well. And PlaceMakers, the experts in the trade New Zealand, greatest trade range in New Zealand since 1981. And the your know-how can do people. Boys, it should be a time to reflect on the Warriors dominating Suncorp Stadium turf, the Warrior Nation dominating Suncorp Stadium stands in Brisbane City. An incredible couple of days for the club, but it comes with the caveat of just an extraordinary couple of weeks. It was only 2 weeks ago, me, Fonzie, and Sam Hewitt debating the best halves combination, and we could not really envisage what would unfold over the next 11 days. Absolutely packed with drama, coincidence, irony, tragedy, and here we are now staring down the barrel of Tanah Boyd being out for the season. Te Maire Martin, a stunning return to the halfback role, and Luke Metcalf suddenly pitchforked back into what shapes as a very crucial role in a team that is absolutely flying. So here to unpack it, I'm glad I've got you two boys, because the roller coaster has got me feeling a little bit shaken up. But how are you boys feeling after that amazing Sunday?
Tell us, Keithy.
I don't know. I haven't crystallized my thoughts. Initially over the moon, obviously, it's such a dominant win for the first time in 8 years or something like that at Brisbane. And then it's just like every question that I asked about like Tanah Boyd going down generated another question. It's like they kept breeding from each other. So I'm like initially I didn't want Metcalf back because doesn't seem like a team player. Well, he does and he doesn't. Everyone's been a bit harsh on Lukey Met, but at the same time, initially I was like, yeah, keep Te Maire in there. But now really come round to Lukey Met. But then I'm like, well, how long's Tanah going to be out? Who's going to be our halfback in round one next year? Is it too soon for Jet Clear? It just brought up a lot of questions, which I'm glad I'm on the podcast because I'm keen to talk about that with you guys. What do you think, Fonz?
Oh, mate, yeah, okay. So let's start with the weekend's game. Obviously, massive win in Brisbane, Magic Round, big crowd. Bit of a Will, you'll be able to tell me, but we haven't won there in a while, and we've only won there a certain number of times. I don't think we put 40 on there very often. So there's a certain amount of against Brisbane. I'm talking. So there's a certain amount of history in that performance, and there's been a few of those this year. But I mean, Brisbane did that performance say more about us or about Brisbane? Because I thought Brisbane were horrendous, just ill-disciplined, low footy IQ, lacking in structure, just like incredibly poor. And so if you take the occasion and the reputation of the opposition and all the rest of it out, was it that amazing a performance? Well, if a team's going to give you 70% of possession in the first half or thereabouts, right, you're going to score. Now, we had some adversity, and obviously we're going to talk about Tanah Boyd and all the rest of it. But I've got to say, my like if I step back from the excitement of it, to me this says more about Brisbane than about us on the weekend. And then because if I sort of give a 30-second summary, Brisbane can't hold the ball. They're giving away penalties. They're just fundamentally lacking in discipline, and the ref is probably given us, the rub of the green a little bit, but that's not the main story. The main story is Brisbane's lack of discipline. Off the back of that, even though our halfback goes down, and has an ACL, we still rack up 20-odd points in the first half. And if you look at those points, we had to work hard for that first Dallin try. We were camped on their line for 12, 14 minutes before we got that first Dallin try, and it was a try right in the corner. So it took us a while to get that. Then I think the Clark try is just a fatigue bash over, one off the ruck. And then Flegler goes to the bin and Egan scores again, I think, one off the ruck. And suddenly it's 18-0. What was the fourth try? It was Chanel got disallowed that bomb, and then it was that. Sorry, you go. Yeah.
Or Egan.
Oh, Capewell.
Egan was the third try dumbing over, and then Tamati grubbering for Capewell. Yeah.
Yeah, because Chanel put up that bomb, caught it himself, and Ford scored, but that got chalked off, didn't it? And so that it was the grubber. You're right, for Capewell. So yet again, another reasonably simply constructed try. So the real story was we dominated possession and field position to an incredible degree. And even though our halfback had gone down, we were just running downhill and scoring pretty simple tries. And by halftime, it's 20-odd nil and the game's over. So, yeah, I spent a lot more time in that game trying to work out what the hell to do about the fact our halfback was gone almost certainly for the year than I did enjoying the win, if I'm honest. But, still a very enjoyable win. Will, thoughts?
Yep.
Yeah, I found it, to be honest, really hard to focus after that injury. I was so rattled and so heartbroken for Tanah and for the team and the fan base. But yeah, agree. The Broncos were awful. There was a part of it, I think, is us making them play that way, as someone's sort of said here. Like, we were pretty relentless, as we sort of predicted. We were all over them, and the Fords, it was a complete mismatch. And eventually that told, just sort of bashed the door down and got those close range tries. Probably maybe a tad lucky when it started to turn in the second half, that early try in the first minute of the second half, and then we got one against the run of play, Ali, from an error, and then a bit of way brilliance put us way out in front, pretty much sealed it, and then that late Dallin intercept. Otherwise, we sort of didn't really look like putting on too many more points in the second half. But yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy given that setback and the disruption that we went on with such a big win. As you said, Fonz, first win since 2018 over the Broncos at Suncorp. Third biggest ever win over the Broncos. The other two were actually at Suncorp in 2013 and 2010. A couple of big ones as well. But yes, certainly a nice bit of synergy there with a 42-12 scoreline. Same scoreline that we lost the 2023 prelim to the Broncos too. So enjoyed that. But yeah, pretty comprehensive. And I think, under the circumstances, the occasion, all the noise leading up to it as well, let's not forget, I couldn't really take too much away from how they played. I thought it was a great win overall. And yeah, just the whole sense of occasion, it was certainly, it's going to be a memorable one. Just crazy to hear, Warriors totally chant out the Broncos and all the scenes you've seen over social media or through the Warriors social media is just crazy. The Warriors just took over.
I reckon that's got the capability of being as big as Blatchy's Blues. I really do. I think that's something going to get bigger and bigger. And shout out to Richie Morgan and Warriors Nation. That is just those are spine-tingling scenes for me. No other club seems to have the fans that we do. And this is one-eyed Warriors fan talking, but I mean, you listen to other podcasts that do sort of, all the games and stuff like that. They're always talking about the Warriors these days, and that's never happened before. Granted, our fans are pretty loud and vocal, but you listen to Cam George talk about it on SEN. The police said next time we're going to need a bit more warning. We didn't expect this many people to turn out flood Caxton Street. So there's something really special around the club right now. It's probably the best vibe I've ever experienced. I've been following the Wires for about 25 years now, and I can't remember a time like this. I'm not getting ahead of myself, but everything that is associated with the club, every game is sold out, regardless of the Christchurch, Wellington, Auckland our fans swamp the stadiums of our away games as well. Not just Gold Coast like it usually is. We really sort of put the Broncos fans to shame as well, which is ridiculous because they've got about 60,000 members or something like that. So it's a really, really good time to be a fan of this wonderful team. So everyone just jump on board. Yep, Tanah, devastated. Everyone is. But at the same time, what a day Sunday was apart from what a day to be a Wars fan.
Broncos without Payne Haas, Corey Jensen, Dean Mariner, Tony Staggs, obviously, but you can only play who was in front of you, and we demolished them. So yeah, couldn't be too much happier. Besides what happened to Tanah, and geez, those scenes with him and his parents in the dressing room at halftime. Haven't seen too many more poignant scenes in Warriors history. But yeah, I guess where do you go from here, boys? Is it time to get into it?
Well, I suppose the first thing you're talking about Tanah and what we do in the halves in particular. Yeah, okay. So let's start with how much can we read into how well Te Maire went on the weekend? Can we read into that he's a genuine option at 7 for us for the rest of the season, or was that a one-off in a team running downhill? In a big occasion, how much of what he did, because he played incredibly well, how much of what he did is repeatable for the next 4 months versus, maybe being repeatable every now and then? What do you think?
My sense is that it would be hard to, Keith, to reproduce that long term. I think we saw it in 2024, and he was excellent in the Magic Round win, throwing it at halfback, and good again in a upset of the Dolphins, very short-handed win, and a big win against the Cowboys in Townsville, and then his form sort of dropped away. I know the Australian media clung to that 3-match streak and sort of demanded his inclusion sort of last year, but his shortcomings were exposed. His kicking game is not up to number 7 standard. Long kicking game, short kicking game is very good. I just feel like it might not be. I'm certainly happy, that we've got someone of his caliber, and if the whole Metcalf situation falls apart, then it's not a bad third string halfback to have to come in. But I'm not quite sure that we're premiership as strong premiership contenders as we were if it's Te Maire sort of guiding us through.
So I think it's important. Okay, so let's unpack what are the actual options here. So we've got keep Te Maire in there for the rest of the year, and I could be wrong here. He was the halfback in the Cowboys 2017 grand final team. I might be wrong there, but
he was in the halves. He was in the halves with
high level
with Michael Morgan, who was absolutely on fire. So he's still very much a secondary. But he was in the halves with him. Came in for when Thurston.
Yeah, it's still grand final. Playing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. My concern is the kicking game, as you said. So ranking our halves. I mean, people want to sort of pit Metcalf against Tanah Boyd, but if you take that out of it and just rank the kicking game, there's Tanah Boyd there's no one near Tanah Boyd in terms of the kicking game in our club, I don't think. But he's obviously injured. So we've got the option of Te Maire for the rest of the year. We've got the obvious option of bringing Luke Metcalf back in. There's a sort of like longer odds options, that being Jet Cleary. Jack Thompson played in the trials, and he's apparently absolutely killing it in the junior ranks. I think those are the 4, just putting all options on the table. I don't think Luke Hansen can really play halfback. I don't think Chanel will be shifted to halfback. Given all of that, I would go with Luke Metcalf. I've changed my tune on that a little bit, but my worry about that is that I think Fonzie mentioned a couple of episodes. Our attack, when Luke Metcalf was supposedly on fire, our attack in the red zone was a real worry for us. We struggled to score tries because there was some Curie that looked amazing on the highlights reel and won us a few games even. they're not going to win us the premiership. We need repeatable set plays that are variable, and that's what I worry about Luke Metcalf's inability to do that. I think actually Te Maire has a better chance of being able to replicate tries that we can put on time and time again. But in saying that, I mean, I don't care either way. I don't mind either way, but I'll probably go with Luke Metcalf.
Yeah, look, I mean, to me, it's absolutely okay. So we don't know where Metcalf's head is at. Webby says they're all big, happy families, except for some reason Metcalf can't train with the team, and even though he's signed with the Dragons, needs another week off and some other things. So I don't quite know what to make of all of that. Yeah, I mean, if you assume Metcalf has halfway got his head in the game, I think you have to put him at 7. I don't want to move Chanel. I think keep him doing what he's doing out there on the left at 6. And I do think Te Maire just does not have the right game to be a 7. If you're running downhill like on the weekend, he's got great instincts. He's got a good pass on him. He can come up with plays in the clutch, that kind of thing. But as Keithy said, he doesn't have the long kicking game. I just don't think he's sort of a player who loves to play in a grinded in structure as the controlling 7. And so I think you've got to play Metcalf there, which means whatever, if there's any residual kind of issues with Metcalf's attitude, et cetera, we need to smack him out of him now and tell him in 2 weeks' time he's got to get there and play 7 and play it as best he can, because there's still a shot for a premiership here, and can't let anyone sooking stop that from happening.
Well, it could be his last shot for a premiership, really. I mean, he's joining an absolutely terrible team, granted with some pretty good signings for next year, but it takes years to rebuild that get that kind of rot out of the club. We saw how long it took Newcastle to do. It's probably as bad as, or almost as bad a situation as what Newcastle found themselves in about 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, Lukey Met's my pick, but also coming back to the game on the weekend, I think we need to give a bit more credit to the shape that all the other players were running. There's a lot of defensive reads that the Broncos need to do, particularly around our back rowers. Obviously, front row when Bayamaga came on, you got Halasima running good lines as well, scaring the defensive line. Tries look, you guys know this better than anyone, tries might look really easy, but then sometimes the camera doesn't show the amount of decoy runners that are actually out of frame, the defensive line's actually having to factor in. And last time they may have gone to those decoy runners. And I think that's what we did really well on the weekend, is that there was no easy defensive reads for the Broncos. If we keep that structure up, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for any halfback to be able to play off the back of that.
Yeah. Good call. If it is Luke Metcalf, and I think the consensus here that it probably should and will be, assuming he is still invested and there's nothing, there's not too much friction there. When does he come back? I know that he was in Australia sorting out his contract, so that's why he wasn't training with the team last week. Webster said he probably wouldn't have anyway, just his words were putting him in harm's way and in collisions when there's a lot of motion swirling around and his future's not sorted. Say he's back say he's back, say he's back now and training, is he a chance tonight? Is he going to be, on the 6-man bench? Is a blockbuster against the Panthers in Sydney next week the best bet, or wait till after the next bye?
Well, how do you answer that, right? I mean, I can sort out a contract electronically and over Teams, so I'm not sure why that takes 2 weeks of international travel. I can also train when I'm traveling, So, I don't understand. It just didn't make sense to me. Apparently the Dragons have announced the deal, right? Why wasn't he in camp the day after the deal was announced? What neat reason is there for him not to be in camp the day after the deal's announced? And why can't he
get named? He didn't get named in the 22.
Yeah, but he can be in camp. He can be running the opposition shape. for us at training. He can be doing what the New South Wales Cup boys do. Like they're saying he hasn't trained with a team, he hasn't got reps. Okay, like I'm sure that I'm not saying Webby's. I believe Webby completely. I just it feels like we've literally moved heaven and earth to let Luke have a little holiday in the middle of the year.
You hear the club speak about it. It doesn't feel acrimonious, does it? There's bad blood. It feels like there's bad blood there.
I think the opposite. Webby's been clear there's not. Is that's his position, and again,
from the club maybe, but maybe it's obviously been pretty tumultuous for Luke Metcalf in the space of less than 2 weeks. He's gone from maybe his manager wants a meeting because he got left out of one game or left on a 6-man bench to he's joining the worst team in the comp. 8 days later. So it's been a crazy whirlwind.
What's tumultuous? Like again, there may be something we don't know because it's private and not been released. So caveat for that. But what's tumultuous? He was going to get his whatever 100,000 a year guaranteed for the next X years. There was a question about whether he was going to be starting 7 and whether he could outcompete Tanah Boyd for that role. As it turns out, 7 days later, it was his anyway because of an ACL. So if it's tumultuous, it seems to me that it's tumultuous inside his head and nowhere else.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I mean, that is, it is tumultuous to him. I'm sure it's been incredibly stressful and emotional and real whirlwind. But it's not for us to say how he should feel about it, even if we don't agree with how he's acted throughout the whole process.
Well, I reckon when my kid is losing it over something they shouldn't be losing it over, I tell them, hey, you shouldn't be losing it over that. Calm down. Let's get on with life. I'm not sure just because he's a pro athlete, we can't have a similar attitude. But anyway, that's.
So he's moving his young family back to Australia from somewhere it was made his home. I'm just saying it's not quite as simple as moving from, say, Penrith to Parramatta. It's it's an upheaval, and I certainly think there's something to that. But nevertheless, he does need to be fully locked in and not with half a foot out the door. And the other question mark, I guess, is the fact that if he's going to take us to a grand final, he's going to have to rack up a career high tally of games, the least durable player in the competition. And
Rocco's got to be out there.
Yeah, well, not even the most injury prone at the club, I guess. But that is certainly a concern. I mean, 2 games back, hamstring injury, just a history of various leg injuries, and his durability is certainly a big question mark. So lucky we do have Te Maire and a couple of other options. There is Jet Cleary. Just on Jet is there. I did notice you say, Fonz, that it needs must. In reference to Jet Cleary, is there any, say, Luke Metcalf gets injured, doesn't work out, doesn't want to play, that Jet is somehow or suddenly into calculations at some point?
Well, I said, I think in the preseason, I thought that Jet was a 2027 prospect. I thought he would play first grade in 2027, but this year was a bit early. Well, we're heading up to the halfway point of this year. And so, we're halfway through the development he's going to have this year, Jet, that is. If we get to a point where our first string half goes down, Tanah Boyd, and our second string half, as it turns out, Luke Metcalf either can't or won't play, then you've got a choice of playing Te Maire at 7 or bringing the kid up, right? And so if we hit that point in round 15, 16, do I think he's ready? No. But needs must, because I think you could probably, you got to make a decision then. Do you play Te Maire there based on his sort of experience in general footy, nous and so on, even though he's not really a 7, or do you bring the kid up and blood him? And it could come to that. It really could. Is my sense at the moment.
I must feel like Chanel's a better 6, better 7 than Te Maire. Longer kicking game, probably played more games starting at 7, early in his career. But as you say, he's very handy, just locked into that left edge there. One thing I will say about Te Maire, geez, his defence was awesome to watch on Sunday. 28 tackles, and he's just such a tough guy. Plays well above his weight, and in his second game of footy since breaking his leg in the All Stars game, I thought it was a pretty courageous effort. Besides those little flashes of brilliance that made it what I thought was his best game as a halfback for the club, and just about his best game for the club.
Well, where does Jack Thompson sit? So he's our Jersey flag, right? He's playing a little bit in New South Wales Cup, but Jet's ahead of him, right?
He was probably 2028, I think, if you were sort of plotting it through, is my best guess.
Because Jet is 21 and Jack is 20.
Yeah, and Jet's got a fair bit of cup under his belt now, whereas Jack hasn't got that yet. But I was going to say, like, if this was preseason and you were in this shit show, and Metcalf, let's say, was gone, so you couldn't include him in the calculation, then you probably would go, right, with what we've got here. Chanel, you're going to be 7, and Te Maire, you're going to be 6. But that would be a whole heap more change all of a sudden when Chanel's nailing that left edge role pretty well. And so, do you want to do that? I don't think so. So, I mean, where I'm at is, as we said, I would go Metcalf. If Metcalf can't or won't play out the year for injury or whatever else, then you're probably putting Te Maire there for a few weeks. And if that doesn't work, then you're tapping one of those cup boys on the shoulder, probably Jet, and saying, mate, you're Stephen Bradbury. It's time for you to come through, mate. Yeah.
It'll have to be Jet, wouldn't it? Let's say Tanah hasn't recovered from his ACL, which is a big chance, and he can't start next year. Tamara's gone. Metcalf is gone.
Well, the word is we're re-signing. There's an article out today, or I think Cameron George
is on Sport Nation. What says we're going to re-sign Chanel? Well, re-signing's imminent because the Boyd one's not confirmed yet, or not, announced officially yet. So that is coming, as well as Chanel, Te Maire. Luke Hanson's still off contract.
Well,
is that right?
So Te Maire, what's happening? Anyone know what's happening?
They reckon that that they're negotiating.
It's going to be extended
for him.
Oh wow! Well, I thought he was gone to Super League or something. Okay.
So I think that's pretty good. Like, you might find next year you've got Te Maire, Chanel, Metcalf's gone, Boyd's probably coming back like round 10, like Metcalf was going to be this year, something like that. Or
this is a bit earlier too. Sorry, Fonz. This is happening a bit earlier than Metcalf's injury. This is only round 11. Metcalf was like round 17, and he was ready by round 4, so he could potentially be back for round 1 trials.
Yep. So it might actually be okay. The depth might actually be okay next year if we do all of that. Wow, I just noticed the time. We're heading up to team list. I just saw a comment there, Will. Jalen Lane's first outing for the club. I didn't see Cup, but
just the highlights. He looks really, really good. He played in the centres. Builders of 5'8". I can see why Andrew Webster said that he might be the quickest at the club. He is lightning. A try just from backing up a Jet Cleary break, but he made a couple of line breaks, at a try assist, and you're just about grooming him as a centre if there's no room in the halves sooner rather than later, because he looks very, very good, but an exciting talent to have coming through the halves ranks as well as a sort of running 5'8". Yeah, to me, looked like Metcalf on steroids.
Well, we've got about a minute until the team list comes out. Question without notice. Do you bring Chance back at fullback if he's fit to keep Tane there?
I don't think you can't drop Tane off the back of that. I don't think you have to. You have to keep going.
Tane, right? So there's no room for Chance.
We do have the team list here, boys. I'll just bring it up. But Tane has been fantastic, and I guess it's just been a disjointed season, unfortunately, for old Chance. So don't see them changing that anytime soon. What do we got here, boys?
It'd be one of the more interesting team lists.
Sure is. Tane to a picky at fullback. Not too many changes at this stage. Dallin and Lofi Camperera on the wings. Ali Lautawa and Adam Pompey in the centre. So Roger still out. Chanel and Te Maire Martin named in the halves. Forwards James Fisher-Harris, Wade Egan, Jackson Ford, Lekalasima, Jacob Laban in with no Kurt Capewell for Origin. Same with Jackson Ford back into starting lineup with Barnett and the Blues team. Aaron Clark at lock. Interchange of Sam Healy, Tanah Smith, Dimitri Vaimaunga, Eddie Edemir Taiava, and the six-man bench made up of Hansen and Nikore. Reserves Kalis Fatialofa, Makai Tafua, and Roger. An interesting name there, so it could be a late inclusion. Yeah. The thoughts, first of all, I guess there's no real surprises to see Te Maire as the halfback. It was, despite what you're saying, Fonz bringing Metcalf back under all the speculation against the team he's about to join, probably had a little bit too much going on, if there is a little bit under the surface there.
Would have been too tumultuous, I think.
Yeah.
Acrimonious.
Okay, so what do we got there? So obviously Barney's out because he's playing Origin. So Tanah comes onto the prop rotation and Eddie comes into the 17. Yeah. Okay, but Capes is out for Origin too, isn't he? So who's going to be the edge sub for Halves and Laden? You doubt those two are going to play 80. So do you reckon Eddie's going to do a stint on the edge, or we're going to bring Murata back into game time?
Yeah, possibly. Eddie is definitely edge capable. Big fan of him on the edge. Actually, he's mostly played as a middle at the NRL level, but he's played centre in the NRL trials and the New South Wales Cup. So, yeah, that'd be my preference. Hopefully he gets the nod there.
If Roger comes back in, it's Pompey that drops out.
Well,
Lofi
had his Cossie moment last week. I've been saying there was one of those coming, and obviously it came in a game where we were running downhill and it didn't matter. And it wasn't that bad. It wasn't quite Cossie standards, but
unhappy game. I thought he was unlucky with that sin bin, by the way. Probably binned on sort of how spectacular it looked. But yeah, he didn't have a great game, caught off his wing a couple of times, and then that shelling that gift wrap try at the end was just the capper for poor old Lofi. So do you reckon Rogers back on the wing after several great outings at centre?
Pompey wasn't great at centre. Pompey wasn't great at centre on the weekend, was he? I don't know.
He had some good stats that actually surprised me. I thought he was pretty anonymous for the most part. Just a classic sort of Pompey doesn't go after the game type performance unless it comes to him. Whereas I feel like Ali is starting to grow into that go after the game. He's putting on some big shots. He's making his presence out. He was on the spot for that try. Yep. And he just looks a bit hungrier again after a few sort of quiet work rate games. But he's producing moments even in those sort of games where he's not racking up the tallies of runs. He is making things happen. I really like Ali's trajectory this year.
If you tell me I have to pick, I'm probably, if Roger's fit, I'm probably going to experiment. Well, not experiment, but have a go. Give Lofi another go on the wing and put Roger in for Pompey at centre and see how that looks again. But that's a 50-50 call for me. Yeah, okay.
Good position to be in that we're not sort of, relying on a Cossie or a Moala Graham Telford to sort of plug a gap and hope for the best. We're, leaving out someone that we otherwise would be really happy to see in there.
Just looking at the injury list, so Rocco Berry round 13, Tanner Boyd obviously ACL, Roger round 12, which is this round, so that's why he's on extended, and Chance is still TBC with a neck injury, so he wasn't eligible, Keith, anyway this week. TBC usually means it could be a while.
Yeah, you're not exactly rushing him back into the team. Like, is he? If we played a grand final next week, I've still got Tane there.
Oh, you can't drop Tane at this point, right? He's been there during this streak. played well on the weekend. No, there's just, I mean, it's like Webby when he said, "Oh, I'm not dropping Tanah for Luke just because Luke's back." Right? It's the same logic at this point, I think. The other
It's a bit more of a body of work for Tanah now.
That's right.
After
Yeah, I think that's right. The other notable omission here is Morgan Gannon. Isn't even on the squad, but isn't on that injury list. So he seems to be.
I forgot about him. I completely forgot. I've not thought about him in weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, right down the pecking order. Wondering what's happening there.
5 minute debut and against the Knights, and then we haven't seen much from a bit of New South Wales Cup. I think there's been some injuries in there. Good squad guy, but I just can't see a situation outside of a long, big injury run that we call upon him again.
Well, I suspect he really struggled to, no foundation behind this. I reckon he's struggling to adapt to our defensive system. If Webby said a few weeks ago in the presser that AKP is still learning our defensive system, imagine coming from the Super League as an Englishman. It's going to take best part of a year.
Sorry, one of our commenters has just told us what we should know ourselves. Gannon took another head knocking cup. Now this bloke's had too many head knocks already, so this is not a good sign. But he might not be on the NRL injury list because he had the injury in cup and they haven't updated it yet for that. Okay, interesting.
He's got a bit of versatility about him, but then there's the likes of Kalis Fatialofa who are knocking on the door of an NRL call up too that might be ahead of him in the pecking order anyway, if he is available.
The speed that he showed on the outside in New South Wales Cup to get around his man on that left side of the field, I thought it was a winger. I thought it was AKP or someone. Then I found out it was Fatialofa. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, he does like lurking out there, as does Bishop Neal sometimes. But there's just so many coming through. I've got a hypothetical market that I'd like you to bet on, boys. Rocco Berry over or under 0.5 NRL games in 2026.
Say that again. Over or under what?
Will he play
0.5 games? Yeah, basically. Will he play
right.
One game
I was,
or 0 games?
Trying to work that out. It's been tricky. I think you'll play an NRL game this year. Yeah. It looks clear he's going to be available for selection, and he will obviously come back through cup. There's no way they're dropping him straight back into first grade at this point. But if he can get a few cup games under his belt and then we get an injury in the centres, he'd probably be first called up. So I'd say odds are probably yes, but it's only paying $1.60 or something. It's not paying $1.10. It's my sense of it.
Yeah, I think a play game as well. It's kind of like the last product of just before we had our junior systems truly in place. I think, Will, you probably know better than this. This could be completely wrong. Is it true that when he played when he debuted in his NRL game, that was his 5th game of rugby league ever? That can't be true,
something like that. Yeah,
that's insane.
Because so he was thrown to the wolves really, but he's had plenty of time now, and it's just injuries holding him back for the most part. Speaking of New South Wales Cup, is there a chance that we see, given his lack of football this year, just the 2 games and then another injury, that Luke Metcalf does come back through Cup?
Oh, I think he will. Yeah. Not this week by what Webby was saying. He still needs to do whatever he's got to do in terms of training and other things. But yeah, I mean, if we are in a situation where he is so lacking in training that he's not able to play first grade this week, I think it follows he has to get some match fitness up playing cup the week after. And so to me that is the way they should go and probably will go. And I think that's the right thing for the player as well, to take a bit of pressure off, let him get his hands on a ball in a game and without a crowd there and any of the tumult that would follow from playing first grade, and then he can ease his way back in nice and gently.
Depends how Te Maire goes this weekend.
Yeah. There is a world where Te Maire just absolutely keeps carving up like he did against the Broncos in tougher games, and it gets too hard to shift him. But that kicking game is probably the big one, not the Luke Metcalf is even the top half of number 7 kicking game wise in the NRL, or even close to it. But that is a concern. Looking at this Dragons team, we've got Gutherson at fullback, Setu too. One of our favourites, making the most of his opportunity. What a story he is in a bleak Dragon season. Christian Tuipulotu on the other wing. Jaden Sewer, interesting selection in the centres. Valentine Holmes, having a terrible time of it at the moment. Daniel Atkinson and Kyle Flanagan makes us feel a lot better about our half situation. The forwards, Locko Jr., Pacific Tonga, Damien Cook, Toby Couchman in the front row, Dylan Egan, Hamish Stewart, Ryan Couchman, some good young forwards there, but a bit of experience. It is an incredibly young pack. Interchange Luciano, Leilua, Emery, Gula, Josh Kerr, Blake Laurie, and it's Terrell Sloan and Lycan King Tonga rounding out that 6-man bench. Have we got anything to worry about whatsoever?
We do. I've thought about this. We've got Penrith the game after, yes?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So that's been coming up for a long time. That's after we pumped Melbourne in Melbourne, the Penrith game became our next real litmus test, and probably the biggest litmus test of the year. Yeah. Are our minds on that game? Will we be guilty of taking St George Illawarra for granted? The turmoil, as Fonzie would say, in the halves, so the halves upheaval, the leadership void when Capewell and Barney, with Capewell and Barney out of the side. Now that's me straw manning it. Steel manning it is obviously this is a reserve grade quality team that we're coming up against, and we have the biggest depth that I've seen in our time. So yes, we really should be still dominating them and putting, winning by 30. But the risks are those that I outlined.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to this game, but I'm actually had tickets, but I forgot I was going camping with some mates and kids this weekend, so I won't be able to watch this till I get back on the Sunday. Got tickets to the Penrith game, had them for a while. Can't wait for that. And I agree with you, Keithy. I mean, there's just no way on paper we should, or form, we should lose to that team. Dragons weren't too bad on the weekend, but yeah, we should not lose this game. But Banana Skin, like you said, got our eye on the Penrith game, come down off a massive Brisbane game and the travel and all the rest of it. Is there a way we lose it? Absolutely. It's the Warriors. we're not yet in that place where we can bank things. But
my brother-in-law was saying the same thing. He said we'll pump Brisbane, we'll lose to the Dragons, and we'll beat Penrith.
Yeah, then give Penrith a run. But we do, back to that conversation about the halves though. I mean, all right, so let's say our forwards roll. The Dragons are slow, I think. Our forwards get on top of the Dragons and we're running downhill again, and Te Maire and Chanel do the job, look $1 million. All right. Ain't going to be like that against Penrith. So, that's when there's going to be a decision. Metcalf's, let's say, fit and centered himself by the Penrith game in 2 weeks' time. That's going to be the big team list Tuesday. Do you bring him back in for that? Or do you go, nah, that's a baptism of fire, put him in cup and run Te Maire, because it's not going to be like it was against Brisbane or it will be against the Dragons. That's going to be the big one, but that's a chat for next Tuesday, I think.
The other question mark, I suppose, over that Penrith game is whether Ivan Cleary follows his normal strategy of resting players after Origin. He's got 4 of them.
That's true.
The big 4 was it Tor, Cleary? Oh, no Edwards, so that's a bonus, I guess, for the Panthers clash with us. And Yo and someone else. I'm sure there's 4.
They still beat us last year anyway.
Yeah. That's the thing. But it does take some sting out of it if they were to rest Cleary, Yo, Tor.
It's Sunday, isn't it?
The first squad.
How about we play Cleary?
It's a Sunday. So
I reckon from Wednesday to Sunday he plays them that week and rests them the ones after. Yeah.
at home is the series
Yeah, it's
opener
a para. It's a para.
and
Yeah.
series openers in Sydney or Brisbane.
Oh, you know what? I feel like it's in Sydney, but I actually haven't checked that. I'm not going to it. Yeah, it is Sydney. Yeah.
So yeah, no travel. Maybe that's the. I think last year it was they played the Origin in Perth and then
Yeah.
to come to Auckland, so a bit different. Yeah, but that is a week away. This Dragons game. I know you love having a guess at the odds, Fonz. What do you reckon the Tad's got the Warriors at?
There'll be some excitement around the Waz this week, won't there? I think we're going to be short as, short as, anyway, I won't say it. About
where are we going with this?
I reckon $1.25.
I'm going to go. $1.28.
Yeah, you're a bit generous to the Dragons, boys. They were about that opening earlier this week, but the Warriors have shortened to $1.18. Dragons, $5 outsiders, 14.5 point start.
So
they were getting 28. They covered last week. The Dragons had a 28.5 point start against the Panthers. So yeah, it was a grittier display certainly in defence.
What are we getting? What started we giving?
14.5. I think we
14.5. Oh yeah, we'll cover that. We'll cover that. If we're fair dinkum, we'll cover that easy. Yeah. 14.5 even money. I'd probably consider that. Yeah.
Got a couple bit of admin, boys. The no ugly salty moment of the week. Now, no ugly scientifically formulated functional beverages, one of the great New Zealand companies, up and coming. No Ugly Salty is their latest cab off the rank. Isotonic electrolyte drink, rapid hydration, 500 mils, and it's bloody delicious. No sugar either. Last week's winner, who got a case of this, 12 cans, 12 500 ml cans sent out. So Dan in Auckland, he was he used the bye week to get salty about the NRL scheduling one game at Mount Smart in the space of 3 months. You'd have to be a little bit ticked off, I think, being a home fan. That does seem a bit lopsided. Big game at Mount Smart this weekend, though. Auckland FC hosting the A-League Grand Final. So good luck to those boys, the Warriors' sister club, if you like. Now, my salty moment of the week this week was a bit of another petty one. I don't mind a bit of a petty salty moment just to get the ball rolling. And it was about the coverage again, but it was, where are we? Here we go. The spider cam at Suncorp that they use at Suncorp Stadium on the coverage drives me berserk. It makes me feel a bit seasick, and they stick with it for a whole set of 6. It looks like shit. It's shaky as. I don't know why in this day and age they're not using a drone instead of something swinging on wires, but we had to watch that entire set leading up to the tomato grubber for Kate Wells try, watching that, and really ruined the experience for me. So that's my no ugly salty moment of the week, boys. Call me petty, but really bugged me, that one. Now, if you guys want to, you listeners out there, want to win a case of this delicious functional beverage, DM us your salty moment of the week. Get as creative as you like. Plenty out there. I ignored some.
I've got a no ugly salty moment coming up for this weekend.
What's that, mate? From the previous weekend. Yeah, pull something from the previous weekend. You've got one. Sorry, you've got one coming up.
Yeah, I've got one. It's a first world problem, but I hate watching rectangular sports played in round stadiums like Cogra.
Oh yeah,
can't stand it.
Yeah,
I don't even know why.
On that one.
Fuck Cogra off.
I'm not a fan either. I'm dreading Origin being at the MCG this year. There's nothing that looks worse on TV, and MCG being an enormous oval. Pretty unsatisfying. I like that though, Keith. It's certainly a first world problem. But get your entries in, and you're in the running for a case of that no ugly salty. Now, another piece of one of our regular segment boys, our PlaceMakers Warriors legend, and this week a poignant one, actually, but one of the all-time greats. Nevertheless, yesterday marked 7 years since Quinton Pongia passed away from cancer in 2019. Coincidentally, he was the first ever player to play for both the Warriors and the St George Illawarra Dragons. Just a brief stint with the Dragons to finish his career, but obviously made his name at Canberra after coming through West Coast, born and bred, made the Kiwis from over here in Canterbury, from club football in the days where Kiwis still ran around in club footy in the early 90s, debuted for New Zealand in 1992, snapped up by Canberra and helped transform them with John Lomax back into a premiership force, won a grand final in 94, found plenty of suspensions with his aggressive style of play. Came home, played for the Warriors in 1998 under his Kiwis coach, Frank Endicott. Suspensions checkered that year as well, but made 18 appearances for us that year, captained New Zealand at the end of the year and was NZRL's Player of the Year in 1998. But the ownership change saw him leave the club along with the likes of Stephen Kearney and joined the Roosters for a couple of years or 3 years. Then had a stint with Wigan, I believe, or Dragons and then Wigan. Finished with 35 tests for New Zealand, and just one of the revered figures in New Zealand and the NRL. You hear when he passed, or when he was crook, and when he passed away, the way that the likes of Tim Sheens, Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly spoke about him, and still held very dear. Only 48 when he passed away, far too young, but that's our PlaceMakers Warriors legend of the week. Any memories of Big Q, boys? It might be a bit of time before your time, Keith. Fonz, you would have been on your periphery back in the latter stage of his career.
Yeah, look, it was. I remember, when you were sitting there and thinking of, the sort of gun players who were, making up rep teams and, making up sort of gun club teams. He was one of them, but just a little bit before the time I was watching close enough, I think.
I remember him predominantly with Canberra.
He was part of that green machine. Yeah.
Yeah, and he turned out for the Roosters for a while.
Yep. Yeah, 3 seasons for the Chooks. Could have played a lot more games, but for a few injuries and suspensions. But one of the nice guys of the game, despite his enforcer persona on the paddock. I went to when Manly played the Warriors here in 2019. He was working in the welfare department, I think, for Manly. His cancer was quite advanced, and they had a kind of a benefit night here in Christchurch, and I was lucky enough to go along. And the amount of people that came in from everywhere to be there, it was like a Kiwis reunion. Sean Hoppy, Jared McCracken, all kinds of people just came from far and wide to support him, and it showed, I guess, the esteem that he's held in rugby league circles and still is. Jay Richton, Riccarton Knights legend. He came over from the West Coast and played for the Mighty Knights over here. Just a fantastic player, and nice that he had that one season with the Warriors as well. Right. Predominantly a Raider, but good to know that he donned our strip for a year as well. So he is our Warriors PlaceMakers legend of the week. Thank you, PlaceMakers. What else have we got, boys? We've been quite efficient tonight without Larking interjecting.
That's about it. About it, isn't it, mate? It's probably I don't know. I don't think there was any other big news. I just mentioned I went out to the footy, beer and food festival at North Sydney Oval, run by the Bears, because while Magic Round is in Queensland, there's no club footy here in Sydney. So the New South Wales Cup puts on a version of Magic Round and at North Sydney Oval, which was a good afternoon on the Saturday. Saw a couple of games of Cup. and had a good arvo. It was pretty old school stuff. They still did between two of the games. They still did a race where they got blokes out of the crowd, and you had to run. I think it was 4 laps of the oval, but you had to scull a beer at the start of each lap. So by the 4th lap, you've got blokes who probably had a few beers before they started, leading up against the white picket fence and spewing in front of the crowd, and kids are sort of excitedly watching guys and seeing who can scull the fastest and run the fastest. It was very, very old school. Took me back to the 80s and very enjoyable. Good afternoon. I should say too, I think they were non-alcoholic beers, and it just showed me that the spewing that's coming from smashing beers like that has nothing to do with the alcohol. It's just pure volume and how the texture of a beer. So anyway, good times, and long may there be more of it.
Can I just say, I watched the game before the Wars game, real sort of Sunday afternoon footy with the brother-in-law, a few whiskies, and Jesus, and that was a shit game, that Gold Coast Titans versus Newcastle game. And then it's like, bring on the main game. And then the Wars Broncos game came on. And you're just like, how is this the same competition right now? I mean, Newcastle, decent team, but just the quality of that game compared to the quality of the Wars game is just, I understand that we pump the Broncos. I get that. But there's just a completely different feel about it. It wasn't just the bigger crowd. It was just I don't know. Just sitting through that first game, geez, it was a dredge. It was a dredge of a session.
Yeah, last year at Magic Round, Will, I thought some of the games were a bit lackluster at times. I wonder if it's something about all the teams travelling and just something about Magic Round, because I reckon the standard was at times a bit off last year as well.
Anyway, our game was good against the Cowboys, and then the Canberra Melbourne game on Sunday was a classic. But I've always kind of felt like that the games lacked a bit of punch despite the occasion, and the margins. So there's only one game that was even remotely close all weekend, which didn't sort of help. The lack of drama and intensity. But but I just want to say another congratulations to everyone that turned out at Magic Round, helped play their part in making the Warriors the absolute kings of Magic Round. I heard Cameron George say that they had a CEO's meeting on the Friday, I'm guessing in Brisbane, with Magic Round being up there. He just would have been walking around like the big man on campus, giving Blake Solly and Noogie, just bullying blokes, feeling like.
Do you know what it is? He said, just all I can think about is, you got to put the fan first. What pisses me off, this is actually no ugly salty moment for me, is the ticket prices for some of these other clubs. I understand they play at sort of venues, New South Wales venues, if you're Roosters and the Eels, North Queensland, cute Country Bank Stadium, can't be cheap to rent. But I saw a game on a Thursday night, a Parramatta game, they wanted $138 on a school night against the Cowboys. This is last year that I looked at ticket prices. And now North Queensland have this dynamic pricing. I think it's Ticketmaster. So if there's only a handful of seats left, they went up to about $240. Something needs to be done about the ticket prices. If you're not selling out your home games and your stadium holds less than, say, 30,000, it's probably because your ticket prices are too high. Whereas the Warriors, we have ticket price for $10. We've got future generation of kids turning up, having the time of their lives. $10, for as little as $10. This is where the other clubs are going wrong.
It cost me $35. Cost me $35 to get into North Sydney Oval to watch Cup on the weekend, Keith. You go have a word to your boys down there before you get.
My boys. No, but I don't think any NRL ticket should be more than $60 ever.
Yeah, not for it's like for if you're going for the cheaper option. Obviously, there's tiered prices for a few good seats, but geez, that's insane. But the Warriors just kicking goals absolutely everywhere on off the field. Great week to be a Warriors fan, and plenty to talk about.
Team of Destiny.
Rest of the season.
Absolutely nothing can go wrong from here. Team of destiny.
Beautiful stuff. Righto, boys. Thank you very much for jumping in. Keith, good to see you again, mate. You too, Fonzie, as always. Thanks, Kingz Container Crew, PlaceMakers, and No Ugly. Don't forget to get that salty moment of the week entry in. I think that'll do us, boys? What do you reckon?
Cheers, man. Yeah, I just had a work call coming in, so I've got to bounce.
Sounds good.
Catch you
Sweet.
later.
See you, bro. Catch you, Keithy. Until next time, look after yourselves and each other.